A very good morning and happy Friday to you. It is very, very early. It's about 7 a.m. here. This is a pre-recorded this week with Mallory. I won't be able to make it live today at 10. I was actually invited down to my alma mater, the University of Notre Dame, go Irish, who is celebrating its 50th anniversary of welcoming women students to the university. And there is a panel about kind of trailblazing women and the career paths that alumna have taken, which is very exciting. I was honored to be asked to participate, so we'll be heading down there this morning, but wanted to make sure we check in bright and early and get a pre-recorded this week with Mallory out to you because there was some huge budget news. So we are going to go ahead and just dive right into that. This week, the legislature passed a $4.8 billion supplemental budget. And I think what's really important here is many of you have heard me express frustration that we have seen American Rescue Plan dollars come into the state of Michigan. These were dollars that were approved by the federal government, by the U.S. Senate and U.S. Congress, to come back into the states to help us get back on our feet in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. And a lot of people don't realize that that money comes from the federal government and then it comes to the states, and then the states have to appropriate those dollars for them to actually come out into our communities. So I know that some people have expressed frustration that on the federal level, the question is, where is all this money going? If it has been passed by Congress, I don't see it in my communities. And the reason is it has been stuck in the legislature. That has been incredibly frustrating. But this week we got together on a bipartisan basis to pass a $4.8 billion supplemental. I know the question has often been, these are dollars that we are very likely never going to see again, probably in my lifetime. What can we invest in that's really going to be transformational? In Michigan, we have long before COVID struggled with some long-term, particularly infrastructure issues. So what this budget does is a lot of really good things. And just again, I want to highlight, and as I regularly have, that budget negotiations have been a silver lining of my time in the legislature. Even in divided government, the budget process has always been overwhelmingly bipartisan and collaborative. So while we always don't get everything we want in a budget, and it doesn't really always fit with what are our top priorities, this is a really, really good budget. And it puts forward a lot of things that we feel very strongly about, particularly around water infrastructure. So I want to dive right into what this budget contains. Like I said, it's a $4.8 billion budget. There was a $4.7 billion supplemental bill and an additional $100 million smaller bill that moved together in the package. And there's about $2 billion in this to improve drinking water and water infrastructure. And here's how that breaks down. $1.7 billion to provide clean, safe water, replacing lead service lines, fixing septic systems, and combating PFAS, per and polyfluoride alkali substances, which is a long scientific way of saying these are forever chemicals. You may have heard these chemicals in things like Teflon and things like firefighting foam. They are used often in manufacturing. They are used often on military bases. And like I said, in our fire departments. And when they get into our water, they never, ever leave. So here in Michigan, this has been a real issue because these chemicals can be cancer causing. And like I said, they do not leave our water. So this is some funding to go towards cleanup and study and making sure that we can attack this issue head on. Additionally, this budget contains $300 million for dam safety, including $250 million for disaster relief and repairs in the wake of the dam failures that led to the Midland area flooding in 2020. I serve on the Energy and Technology Committee in the Senate, and we had a number of hearings about what happened with this dam. And one of the things that was shocking to me was learning that over 80% of our dams are privately owned infrastructure. And what happened here, this was a dam owner that received multiple fines, fees, penalties for not maintaining, not keeping up this dam. We heard from both the federal government and the State Department on this, and it just really felt like both agencies hands were tied. When you've got somebody who's an irresponsible owner, who is not responding to really every tool that exists to kind of rein them in, what can we do about this? So, I think it was really, really important that we include this funding here for the Midland community, for Mid Michigan, who was absolutely devastated by this dam collapse and are still recovering from it. But long term, we really have to look at what do we do as a state and a country when we run up against privately owned infrastructure, when you've got irresponsible owners who are not doing the necessary safety checks, not maintaining things, when it does lead to devastation. This goes kind of broader. We saw the green ooze incident along 696 out in Madison Heights, again, of a small business owner who time after time after time after time just refused to do site cleanup, and that impacts all of us. So much more to come from a policy perspective, and I hope to be working on that through the remainder of this term and into next term, if voters trust me to come back. But that is really important. So this money is in for the Midland community in the wake of that dam collapse. There is also $380 million for road and bridge repairs and pump stations to prevent highway flooding, especially those of us in Southeast Michigan. We saw over last summer record flooding, devastating flooding along the highways, and so many of the pump stations in the Great Lakes Water Authority failed. So there is funding to address that as well. There's also $200 million for local parks, $500 million in rent and mortgage assistance. We are moving beyond just water issues into some of the other kind of COVID-19 relief related economic recovery relief issues in there as well. And I think that rent and mortgage assistance is huge. We need to make sure that people, as everybody's getting back on their feet and getting back to work, that you can stay in your homes. There is also $140 million to stabilize the unemployment benefits fund. This has been a real source of struggle for the past few years. I know for many of you and for our office. Our office has helped over 1,000 people access unemployment benefits over the past few years. And for everybody who has sent my staff a thank you card, a note, please know how much that means to us. It has been very, very challenging and heartbreaking for us to work through these issues, but it's something that we take a great deal of pride in, is being able to help people, to help troubleshoot these issues. So I know there was a post on Nextdoor this week that a few people sent me, and I really appreciate it. It means a lot, especially knowing that our staff works so hard, and just want to help people. So thank you to everybody who has said thank you or who has acknowledged us. It really means a lot, and we do want to make sure that we are helping as many people as possible. But we've also seen the news headlines of the Unemployment Insurance Agency desperately needs an overhaul. There was a lot of fraud in the system this past few years. There was a lot of people hired that we needed to hire very quickly in the Unemployment Insurance Agency that maybe didn't complete a background check. And this money goes to backfill that system to make sure that those of you who need to access this agency and get your benefits are not held to account for flaws in the system. All right, jumping ahead, bear with me. I'm going to take a sip here. We're going to have more on the budget and what this means. And again, talking about the budget cycle. Of note, this was a supplemental budget. So this is not the big statewide budget that we pass every single year for fiscal year 2023. That process is still ongoing. A supplemental is exactly what it sounds like. It supplements the main budget, and it is usually with additional funds, whether there's a revenue surplus, whether we have federal dollars that, again, we need to appropriate and get out the door. Now, there are still federal dollars remaining on the table, a little over $2.5 billion still to be appropriated. So more to come. But like I said, this is a huge step forward to making sure these dollars get out the door. And at the end of World Water Week, really, really important that so much of this supplemental focused on our water and our water infrastructure to make sure that we are making those investments that we need for this resource and our safety to be sustainable moving forward. All right, jumping into what else did we vote on this week? Some interesting legislation that we wanted to call out. If you love snowmobiling, if you love going up north, we passed legislation that would amend the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act to require the DNR to offer one free snowmobiling weekend each snowmobiling season. And I want to get into a little bit of kind of a procedural fun thing. When we pass a bill, it typically does not go into effect until the following year. But we have the option to vote to give something immediate effect, which is, again, exactly what it sounds like. If we vote on a piece of legislation, we want it to go into effect ahead of the regular time frame. We vote to give something immediate effect. That usually requires usually it requires a 2/3 vote from the chamber for something to take immediate effect. I don't vote for immediate effect on very many things, unless it's absolutely necessary. I am somebody who I like to be thoughtful and I like for things to go through the full process unless they absolutely have to. But this is one where I did give it immediate effect because if this does not go into effect, let's say until March of next year, if it's a year later, we might miss out on next winter. If there's still a snow weekend this year, great. If there is snow next year, this is just something where I think it is so great for our economy, our state, for people to get outside and enjoy the outdoors. So it's not all controversial what we do in the Senate. So if you are looking to take up snowmobiling, if you love snowmobiling, if you want to get up north and get at that, great news. There's going to be a free snowmobiling weekend as long as that bill gets signed by the governor and it is headed to her desk. All right, the next up, interesting bill. We passed a bill to reform the Child Protective Services Central Registry. And on its face, somebody might say, well, why would you reform this? This gives people who are potentially on this registry more opportunities to request expungement. Why would you want to do that if this is somebody who ran into an issue? What we've learned, particularly from foster parents, and this is crucial because we have significantly more kids in the foster care system than we do have foster parents. My mother-in-law was a foster parent long before I was around, but I know how hard it is for foster parents already. So what was happening was, having a foster child placed with a parent, it's a really tricky thing. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it's not the right match. And what was happening was some foster parents were finding themselves on this registry for exactly that reason. If there was an issue that needed to be reported and we're working through the system, and that was preventing parents from either bringing in another foster child or participating in their child's activities. And that's not something that we want. So this adds more of a process for reporting to request expungement and enhances the administrative review process of when there are issues that require Child Protective Services to get involved to make sure that this registry is accurate and we are not unduly punishing parents who really mean well, who ran into an issue. And we want to make sure, again, especially for the foster care system, that we are making sure that every foster child gets a chance with parents who want to try and be foster parents. So I think that was a really, really good bill and something that may not be on the top of many people's radars. Lastly, this week, I want to highlight a bill that's really important. And we heard from a lot of you a few months ago when there was a bill up that would allow any school employee to become a substitute teacher. So somebody who works in the lunchroom, somebody who's a bus driver, somebody who is an administrative professional to step into this role as a substitute teacher. And I think that we heard from so many of you that, yes, there is an issue of a lack of substitute teachers. There is a teacher shortage. There is a substitute teacher shortage, especially in the wake of the pandemic and us trying to get back to school and back to normal. But we heard that that was not the right solution. I voted against that bill for a variety of reasons. We want to make sure that when your child is in the classroom, that there is an experienced, qualified educator there, not just somebody babysitting them. And that is not to take away from the passion and heart of other school employees, but also it doesn't solve the issue of, well, who's going to backfill when we also have a shortage of bus drivers, when we also have a shortage of administrative professionals? So to me, that wasn't the right solution. But Senate Bill 726 would make it easier to employ retired teachers as substitute teachers. It changes the required separation period from 12 months to 4 months. And it clarifies that there must be a bona fide termination to ensure that retired teachers are coming back to substitute, but not, and this was important, but not replacing an employee with benefits, et cetera. So really wanting to make sure that this is a teacher who has gone through the termination process, is in retirement. We are bringing this teacher back as a substitute, not becoming a filler for hiring full-time current teachers. These changes in law will sunset after 2 years. So this is something that frequently happens with new bills and ideas for legislation. We put a sunset on the bill to kind of see how it works for a few years. And then we'll have the opportunity to either extend that sunset or pass it into law permanently, remove the sunset altogether. Apologies. Like a lot of people, I'm still just getting over a cold. So bear with me as we hop into our good news for the week. First up, I wanted to share, you may have seen me tweet about this, and there has been posts on Facebook. Royal Oak just announced that there will be a new festival coming to the city, a 4-day taco fest. I don't know about you, but there is nothing that I am more excited about than 4 days of tacos. I love tacos. Just what a perfect food in a self-contained mechanism for all kinds, don't even get me started. Very excited that the team behind Art Sweets Neats and Winterfest is bringing this new festival to Royal Oak. It will start July 1st and is planned for municipal parking lots and city streets in the areas of South Main Street, West 5th Street, 6th Street, 7th Street, South Washington Avenue. So it's going to be all over. Keep an eye out for that this summer. It will include taco trucks and taco-themed dishes, tequila and Mexican beer, 3 music station, a kids zone, and other programming that will be announced later. So some summer fun coming on the way. Now let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see if that'll work this time. Oh no, I am running. Okay. It's going to be a reminder for me to have to fix this at another time. My computer has a security setting on right now that does not allow me to share my screen at this moment. I will make a note for myself to fix that for next time. So unfortunately, you can't see the awesome kids who are in this next picture, but maybe when Liz airs this, she can share a link so you can check it out. Barnard Students Clean Sweep County Clean Water Contest. That is a mouthful. The popular 2022 Oakland County Kids Clean Water Calendar Contest has resulted in great work being submitted by local 4th and 5th grade students across the county, and yet another sweep by Barnard Elementary School students, just dominating this competition. The 2022 calendar features the artwork of 12 monthly winners, in addition to 12 honorable mentions and 24 special acknowledgement selections representing the calendar's theme. The theme this year is we can all help keep Oakland County's lakes, rivers, streams, and watersheds clean. Clean water, World Water Week. There is a theme this week, and it is one of the most important themes to the Great Lakes State. Out of nearly 600 art submissions by 4th and 5th grade students in Oakland County, the grand prize winner is Aditya Yogesh, Barnard Elementary 5th grader, whose artwork titled Save Today to Survive Tomorrow is featured on the cover of the 2022 Kids Clean Water Calendar. We highlighted this artwork in a previous coffee hour, but congratulations again to all of the students from Barnard who have their artwork featured in this year's calendar. If you want to check out this calendar, which you absolutely should, you can view it at oakgov.com/calendar contest. And you can order your own calendar and pick it up at local libraries, including the Troy Public Library. So go celebrate all of our kids, check out this great calendar, and celebrate Oakland County's water and make sure that we are protecting it and keeping it clean. Lastly, in good news this week, Beaumont Health studies showed the effectiveness of COVID-19 boosters in hospitalized patients. A new study published by Beaumont Health found that COVID-19 booster shots significantly reduced the death rate for hospitalized COVID-19 patients and provided more protection than the vaccine alone. I know this was a big question as we saw new variants come online. Would this be effective? How effective are the original vaccines? This is another thumbs up for boosters. The study found that hospitalized patients who received boosters had a 45% lower mortality rate than the unvaccinated hospitalized patients. It was published March 17th in the Lancet Regional Health publication of the Americas. So that's it for our good news this week. Lastly, I want to get into one question that was submitted via our Submit Your Questions form. Again, unfortunately, this week, this one is pre recorded. But if you do have questions, Liz will drop the link to our Submit Your Questions form. Please submit questions and we will address them in a future live stream. So this week, our question is Diana via the questions form from Troy. I'm going to read it and then I'm going to answer it for you. Diana says, glad we're talking about getting rid of daylight savings time. However, hate springing forward. Let's fall back one more time and stay there like it was originally. If you are a morning person, you are definitely screwed by springing forward. There is no reason to be light until 10 p.m. any time of the year. At least talk about it. I really feel like this should be on the ballot, not something left up to a few political individuals. This affects everyone. Please try. Thank you. Diana, that's a great point. And, anytime the issue of daylight savings or changing our clocks comes up, there is the debate over morning people, evening people, who prefers what. So a couple of things to clarify. This bill moved through the United States Senate. So this happened on the federal level and is now in the U.S. House of Representatives in Congress. So if the federal government takes action on this, it changes nationwide, and we will all have to figure out how to adapt to that. But I think that it is a really important point of if this does change, and this is something that happens nationwide, particularly for those of us in Michigan who are on kind of the western edge of a time zone. It's already sunny late in the evening in Michigan. I saw some people debating online that if this change to daylight savings time permanently does go into effect, does Michigan change time zones? Do we move into the central time zone? All questions that I think we are going to have to sort out if and when this does happen on the federal level. It hasn't happened yet. We will keep you posted. But also a lot of very valid questions about, what is the right time for the school day? There's a ton of research out there already that shows that kids developmentally should actually be sleeping in a little bit longer than most of our school days start. So is that a shift that we can make? I know a lot of people really enjoy how late the sun is out here in Michigan, especially for those who have kids. If you're at work all day, you want to come home and enjoy that sun. So lots of debate. We're going to have to look into it again if and when this legislation passes on the federal level, because if it is federal, it will impact the entire country and we're all going to have to adapt. But Diana, really appreciate the feedback and the thoughtfulness. And that was it for questions this week. So I hope you have a very good weekend. Just a heads up that after this was our last week of session before the legislature goes on a 2-week in-district break. So we will not have a live stream for the next 2 weeks because we won't be in session. There won't be anything to report back to you. But stay tuned. We are looking at finally, hopefully, bringing back more in-person events as our COVID numbers have come down and look promising. Obviously not perfect. We are learning how to adapt with this, but we want to get back out there and see you safely. So more to come soon, and we will keep you posted on our next live stream, which will be the second week of April. But if there is any breaking news or anything interesting, we will be sure to share that with you. For those who are on spring break with your kids, I hope you have a really, really wonderful spring break. I hope the weather turns back around and goes back to that beautiful spring weather. Stay safe, and we will talk to you very, very soon. Have a great weekend.